2006 maybe. It was already implemented in, I think it was like 21 counties in Illinois for many years, and it worked there. And so finally, the Supreme Court got around to saying, well, we'll just mandate that to all the courts throughout, lower courts in all the counties. So they did, and it's helpful. But we're a free country. I mean, no one can force you to sign an agreement you're not agreeable to. So sometimes mediation doesn't do all that much to help things, but it obviously helps sometimes. It's interesting. There was testimony to the Family Law Study Committee by the president of the Family Institute, Northwestern University, and he was saying, we need something more than mediation. We need a process where parents would involve like counselors and involve maybe subject matter specialists and maybe make it more like 6 sessions. But and we are looking at that as there are people in Illinois looking at that as a proposed change in the law that would make that easier for judges to order somebody into. But that's going to be expensive. That's the other issue here, is what can people afford to pay for?
Right. I mean, that boils down to, financial shock for some people because of the fact that, unfortunately, this process is going to cost you some money. Not everybody has the financial resources to be able to adequately pursue their rights.
Yeah, and we struggle with this one. And I have attorneys in some counties who will tell me, well, Mike, it's not that hard for me to get a father a school overnight, and my ears really perk up, of course. But then you find out what it costs the father to get that, right? Or the non-custodial mother. I mean, a full-day court hearing. What's your estimate of what that would set somebody back?
Exactly.
You're not going to tell me, are you?
Well, you're looking at 8 hours. You're looking at prep time.
Yep.
That's an expensive time, but
the average we've come up with 3 years ago. The average, just for as close as we could figure, and and I've been challenged about this, but just for a non-custodial parent to get 1/3 parenting time, just to get some school overnights, basically, we're talking on extended weekends. The average cost was over $7,500.
Mm-hmm.
Cash. Well, who's got if you're paying child support, who's got $8,000 or $9,000 left laying around?
Sure. Well, hopefully once they get that additional overnight, that they're getting a credit on their child support, which would ultimately reduce that.
Not in Illinois. We don't have that in Illinois. No. Case law, in general, case law would not support that viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't push that. Children's Rights Council viewpoint is, we'll let other organizations focus on that. Our focus is purely on the parenting time, and we do not want to mix that up with child support issues.
Sure.
And so, maybe down the road, maybe that's something that will happen in Illinois. If it does, we may be part of some discussions on that, but we are not out there, beating a drum on that. What we want to do is protect the kid's relationship with the parents,
Right. And speaking of protecting the relationship with the parents, what would you think would be the most effective way for parents to communicate with one another?
Okay, you stumped me. I'm not a licensed family therapist, so I will say a couple things that our support group meetings do help in that regard, because there's a couple things. One is some of these non-custodial parents think they were singled out by their judge. They don't realize that, no, actually, it's protocol across most counties is what you experienced, or it's case law is what you experienced. And they may think that's wrong, but it helps, them feeling less, singled out, like guilt. Well, you'll hear it from non-custodial parents. I was guilty till I was proven innocent, and I say, no, if that were the case, you'd probably be in jail right now. So some of that helps them then have a better attitude about communicating with their ex. They realize that, these are the kind of protocols that are out there that encourage some custodial parents to really be monopolizers, The other thing is the support groups, I find, help the non-custodial parents kind of separate out their issues. And we talk to them about, does your child support issue really matter to you, or does your relationship with your child matter most,
Right.
And I think those discussions really are helpful for setting them up to say, you know what, and we've had some fathers, divorced dads, react this way and go, you helped me think that through, and then I was able to communicate more constructively with my ex,
I mean, people have to realize that they have to put their children first.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it's going to have to deal with some probably tough times with the other parent, but you've got to realize that in order to foster a meaningful relationship with both parents, mom and dad have to get along, because the child or children, they're going to see right through that.
Well, yes, and however, we do find, and this was also testified at Illinois Family Law Study Committee by a guy who did, he said, over 400 custody evaluations. He kind of made it clear that he felt that's a little overblown, this thing that, how much do the parents have to cooperate? And I have spoken to this on other shows that, parents figure out how to get the job done if you give them the parenting time. They'll text each other, they'll leave voicemails for each other. We all figure out how to communicate with people that we'd rather not communicate with,
right.
Family members, co-workers. We do what we have to do once we know that we have to do it. So,
what have been some of the what are some of the reactions when you speak to the judges or the guardian ad litems or the attorneys and trying to implement equal parenting?
We do not, Children's Rights Council doesn't push equal parenting. We're really about just extended weekends and half of all summers and, a reasonable parenting distribution that is supported by the social sciences. This is what, experts like Dr. Kelly, Dr. Crook, and others that you can read up on and that have influenced the states of Colorado, Oklahoma, Arizona, and Indiana on, and the government of Australia on uniform parenting time for the non-custodial parent. All that whole body, those statutes, that research points toward a minimum of about 1/3 parenting time that kids need in order to maintain their relationship. To go from that to equal parenting time as a whole, frankly, is another issue, and it's a separate issue. And so, Rennie, what was your question again?
Well, let me phrase it this way. In your experience in Illinois, are courts more towards ordering 1/3 parenting time, or are they more towards ordering equal parenting time?
Well, neither, and that's the problem. They aren't ordering 1/3 unless you can drag in, subpoena witnesses and show an extensive level of involvement, and then maybe if you're in the right county, and only if you got the right judge sometimes in the right county.
And you make a good point. I don't mean to interrupt you, but that is exactly true. It depends upon the county and the judge that you're in front of.
Yeah, we don't have any uniformity. What we have is, here's what we have. We have a cookie-cutter, uniform presumption across Illinois. Everybody, basically very few people argue that this isn't true. That is predominantly true across Illinois, and that minimum presumption is every other weekend and a midweek visit.
Right.
And then beyond that is this uphill battle that maybe if you get the right judge, and they happen to have had, have a favorable attitude toward non-custodial parents or something, or they happen to have read Joan Kelly's research and have been influenced, something like that, then maybe you'll get more than that every other weekend. But that's it. That's the situation. And one of the things we're hoping to either get the judges to do voluntarily or talk to legislature about and get them educated that, we need this change where this minimum presumption is child unfriendly, and it's not sufficient. And it came out of the 1950s and 1960s, and maybe a little bit of upgrade in the 1970s when they threw in 4-hour midweek visit. That's not nearly enough. All these parents at the time of their divorce, the majority of them were both highly involved with their kids, and you can't expect a kid to adjust well to go from seeing his dad every night to 4 nights out of a month.
Right.
So.
Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time. But again, I appreciate you coming back on the show and being involved in the family law arena and having offices across the United States, especially in Illinois. Greatly appreciate what you're trying to do for parenting for non-custodial parents.
Thank you, Dan. I
sure
appreciate the time.
And your site is equalparentingillinois.org, and
yep.
We'll have that on our site as well, DadsDivorce.com. But again,
Great.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule, and I look forward to speaking with you again. Thank you for tuning in to DadsDivorce.com. We're very grateful for having Mr. Doherty on our show again. You can always check out our site at DadsDivorce.com, and you can submit a question that we'll try to address on an upcoming and future episode. That's Ask a Lawyer. Click on the icon, submit your question, and we'll do our best to try to address any questions that may arise. Again, that's Dad.